Dr. Eliza Martinez stared at the data readings on her screen for the fifth time. The patterns were unmistakable now. Something beneath Europa's icy surface was sending signals, organized, deliberate signals. "You need to see this," she called. To her colleague, Dr. Paul Johnson, who floated over in the low gravity of Europa Research Station. Paul adjusted his glasses and leaned in. "Those aren't random electromagnetic fluctuations." "No," Eliza said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's a pattern. It repeats every 12 minutes with slight variations." She pointed to the screen. "Whatever is sending this knows about prime numbers." Word spread quickly through the station's 50-person crew. By the next morning, everyone from the janitors to the station commander crowded around Eliza's lab. "We need to inform Earth immediately," Commander Alan Foster said, his usually stern face showing rare excitement. This could be the first contact with non-terrestrial intelligence, while Eliza and her team worked tirelessly beneath Europa's ice. Another historic meeting was being prepared 400 million miles away. Captain Benjamin Harris stood before the full-length mirror in his quarters aboard the USS Pathfinder, Earth's most advanced starship. He straightened his dress uniform and practiced his greeting one last time. "On behalf of humanity, I extend greetings and hopes for peaceful cooperation." The words felt inadequate for humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Concord, a coalition of 17 alien species that had apparently been watching Earth for decades. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates." First Officer Kelly Wade's voice came through the intercom. "On my way," Ben replied, taking one last deep breath. The bridge of the Pathfinder hummed with tense energy as Ben entered. Through the main viewport, he could see their destination, an enormous structure floating in orbit around Jupiter. It looked like a silver lotus blossom, each petal nearly the size of Manhattan. "All stop," Ben ordered. "Open communications channel." Moments later, the viewport changed to show a being with blue-gray skin and large, compound eyes. "Greetings, USS Pathfinder," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Krell of the Arcturians. Welcome to Concord Station 12. Please proceed to Docking Bay 7. The next few hours passed in a blur for Ben and the diplomatic team. They were escorted through vast corridors where gravity shifted subtly between sections to accommodate different species. Ben noticed that many aliens stopped to stare at the humans as they passed. "Is something wrong?" he asked their guide, a tall insectoid being named Trex. "Not wrong," Trex replied, mandibles clicking. "You are simply the newest species to join our discussions. There is much curiosity." The diplomatic chamber was arranged in a circle, with 17 different seating, areas designed for vastly different body types. Ben and his team were directed to comfortable chairs that were clearly made to human specifications. The head of the Concord delegation, a willowy being named Silvarin with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer with its own light, began the proceedings. "For 100 of your Earth years, we have observed humanity's development," Silvarin said. "Your rapid technological advancement from primitive flight to interplanetary colonization has been remarkable." Ben wasn't sure if that was a compliment. "We have many questions about human culture," continued Silvarin. "Your species presents certain contradictions that we wish to understand better." The meeting progressed smoothly as the human delegation answered questions about Earth's nations, governments, and technologies. Ben began to relax until a Concord scientist named Zira asked what seemed like a simple question. "Could you share examples of human art forms? We are particularly interested in how you express your feelings and experiences." Dr. Olivia Benson, the cultural attaché, smiled brightly. "We've prepared a presentation covering various art forms throughout human history." The lights dimmed as Olivia displayed images on the large screen. Renaissance paintings, modern sculptures, classic literature excerpts, movie clips, music recordings, war memorials, children's cartoons, horror films, ballet performances, and rock concerts. As the presentation continued, Ben noticed the alien delegates becoming increasingly agitated. Some whispered urgently to each other, while others seemed to physically recoil from certain images. When the lights came back up, an uncomfortable silence filled the room. "Is everything okay?" Ben asked carefully. Silveren's shimmer had dulled to a flat gray. Captain Harris, you have shown us peaceful landscapes alongside depictions of violence, expressions of love alongside simulated death, children's entertainment that contains both joy and fear, all created by the same species. That's just art, Ben said, confused. It reflects the full range of human experience. Precisely, said Silveren, and that is what disturbs us. Before Ben could respond, his communications officer approached with an urgent message from Earth. Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from Europa Research Station. Ben excused himself and stepped aside to read the message. His eyes widened. Ambassador Silveren, I apologize for the interruption, but something urgent has come up. Our research team on Europa has made contact with an intelligent aquatic species living beneath the ice. They call themselves the Luminari. Murmurs spread through the alien delegation. The Luminari are a known species, said Krell, the Arcturian. Highly intelligent, with limited precognitive abilities. We lost contact with their homeworld 5 cycles ago. Well, apparently they've been hiding on Europa, Ben said, and they've requested asylum from Earth. Asylum? Silveren asked sharply. For what reason? Ben looked down at the message again. They say they need protection from something they call the impending storm, and they specifically asked for human protection. The chamber erupted into chaos as the alien delegates all began speaking at once. Silveren raised a hand for silence. Captain Harris, this changes the nature of our discussion considerably. The alien's skin now pulsed with different colors. The Luminari possess foresight that has proven accurate in past crises. If they have sought out humans specifically, then perhaps our concerns about your species require reconsideration. Back on Europa, Eliza Martinez descended in a submersible, probed through a narrow borehole in the ice. The crushing darkness of Europa's subsurface ocean surrounded her, broken only by the probe's lights and the mysterious bioluminescent patterns that had first caught her attention weeks ago. Are you receiving these images? She asked into her comm unit. Crystal clear, came Commander Foster's reply. Those structures don't look natural. In front of her probe, massive crystalline formations arranged in geometric patterns rose from the ocean floor. And moving among them were graceful, glowing beings, some as small as dolphins, others massive as whales, all communicating through pulses of light. I'm at the coordinates for the meeting, Eliza said, her voice breathless with wonder. The largest of the luminous beings approached her probe. It pulsed a complex pattern of blue and green light which her computer immediately translated. We have waited long for this meeting, Eliza Martinez of Earth. We have seen what comes. Only humans can help us. Only humans can understand both sides of the darkness. Eliza frowned. What darkness? What have you seen? The Luminari's next transmission made her blood run cold. The devourers of worlds are coming. And in all possible futures, only one path leads to survival. The path where humans stand with us. 6 months had passed since first contact. The gleaming halls of Concord Station 12 now included a human section where gravity matched Earth's pull, and the air carried a hint of pine. Dr. Natalie Wright stepped out of the elevator, her heart racing with excitement and nervousness. As a cognitive psychologist, she never imagined her research would take her to an alien space station, let alone that she would be invited to join the Concord's prestigious interspecies research team. Dr. Wright, welcome to the Neurological Sciences Division, said a voice behind her. Natalie turned to see a tall, slender alien with pale green skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. This was Trell, the Zenovian neurobiologist she'd be working with. Thank you for having me, Natalie said. I'm eager to begin our research. Trell tilted his head. Your species has been classified as protected, yet you display no fear. Most protected species exhibit constant anxiety. Natalie frowned. This wasn't the first time she'd heard about humanity's unusual status. We're not exactly clear on what protected species means. Species requiring supervision for their own safety and the safety of others, Trell explained matter-of-factly. Usually applied to those with high intelligence but poor impulse control. Natalie bit back a retort. She was here to build bridges, not start arguments. Perhaps our research will provide some clarity on human behavior. The laboratory was filled with equipment Natalie had never seen before. At its center stood a massive scanner, similar to an MRI but with pulsing blue light emanating from its core. This is a consciousness mapper, Trell explained. It records neural patterns across species, allowing us to compare thought processes, despite different brain structures. Over the next few weeks, Natalie and Trell studied brain scans from 27 different intelligent species. They looked for patterns, similarities, and differences in how various beings processed emotions, threats, and social interactions. One night, while reviewing human scans, Trell made a startled clicking sound, his species' equivalent of a gasp. "This cannot be correct," he said, pointing to the screen. "Run the analysis again." Natalie ran the program once more. The results remained unchanged. "What's wrong?" she asked. "According to this data, humans simultaneously activate neural pathways associated with both predator and prey responses," Trell said. "This should not be possible. It creates a cognitive dissonance that would drive most species to madness." Natalie leaned forward. "Show me the comparative data." Trell displayed scans from various species side by side. The Arcturians, evolved from pack hunters, showed strong predator pathways. The peaceful Alorans, descended from herd animals, displayed typical prey responses. Every species showed a clear evolutionary heritage in their neural architecture, except humans. "We evolved as omnivores," Natalie explained, "both hunters and gatherers. We had to understand the minds of predators to become better hunters, while also remaining vigilant as prey ourselves." "But your empathy centers," Trell continued, pointing to another area of the scan, "they activate equally for members of your own species and for completely alien life forms, even for theoretical entities in your fiction." Natalie smiled. "We can put ourselves in others' shoes. It's an expression meaning we can imagine being someone else, even someone very different from us." "But why would evolution select for such a trait?" Trell asked. "It offers no survival advantage to care about the feelings of potential threats or competition. Actually, it made us better hunters and better at cooperating," Natalie countered. "Understanding how others think helps predict their actions." Meanwhile, across the station, Captain Benjamin Harris was having drinks with Krell, the Arcturian diplomat who had become something of a friend in recent months. "The Concord is still debating humanity's status," Krell said, sipping a luminous blue liquid. "Your species confuses the classification committee." Ben laughed. "We tend to have that effect." Krell's expression grew serious. "There's something you should know, Ben. The reason the Luminary sought human protection, it's not just a diplomatic preference." He glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. "The Concord has been monitoring a threat from the outer rim of the galaxy, a hive mind species we call the Void Eaters." Ben set down his drink. "How serious is this threat?" "They've consumed 3 civilizations already," Krell said grimly. "Entire planets stripped of all life. The Concord Council has been looking for effective countermeasures for decades. And the Luminary think humans are the answer? Why?" "That's what puzzles us," Krell admitted. "Your technology is primitive compared to most conquered species. Your military capacity is limited to your solar system. By all logical measures, humans should be irrelevant to this conflict." Back in the lab, Natalie had made a breakthrough. She excitedly called Trell to her workstation. "Look at these simulation results," she said, pointing to her screen. "I set up a model to test cognitive flexibility across species, the ability to switch between different mental frameworks and perspective taking." Trell studied the data. "These results cannot be correct. No species scores this high on adaptive empathy measures. Humans do," Natalie said simply. "We can empathically model the thought processes of both predator and prey species simultaneously. We can understand the Arcturians' pack mentality just as easily as the Ellerans' herd dynamics. We can even conceptualize how the hive mind Void Eaters might think." Trell's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. "This changes everything." That evening, the station's human section was busier than usual. A small party celebrated the 6-month anniversary of Earth joining the conquered. Music played and humans mingled with the braver aliens who ventured into the Earth normal gravity. Dr. Paul Johnson, recently arrived from Europa, approached Natalie with a glass of wine. "How's your research going?" he asked. "Fascinating," she replied. "We've discovered something unique about human cognition. How about your work with the Luminari?" Paul lowered his voice. "They've been sharing their precognitive visions with us. They see thousands of possible futures branching out from each moment, and in every scenario where the galaxy survives what's coming, humans play a central role." "Did they say why?" "Something about our dual nature. They keep using this phrase. Only those who understand both creation and destruction can prevent the final devouring." Across the room, Ben received an urgent message on his communicator. His face turned serious as he read it. "What is it?" Natalie asked as he approached their group. "The Concord Council has called an emergency session," Ben said. "They want me to present humanity's case for reclassification. They're considering changing our status from protected species to something new." "Is that good or bad?" Paul asked. "I'm not sure," Ben replied. "But they're calling it guardian species. And apparently it's because of Dr. Wright's research." Natalie felt a chill run down her spine. "My research shows that humans have unusual cognitive flexibility and empathy. But how does that make us guardians?" Ben's communicator pinged again. He read the message and looked up, his expression grave. "We're about to find out. The Void Eaters have been spotted in our solar system." Colonel Gregory Walsh squinted through the dust kicked up by emergency shuttles landing on Ganymede's surface. 1 year into humanity's probationary membership in the Galactic Concord, and he was about to face the enemy everyone had been whispering about. "Status report," he barked into his comm unit. "Civilian evacuation is 80% complete," Lieutenant Susan Miller responded. "But we've got incoming bogies on the far side of the colony." Greg checked his tactical display. The small human mining colony on Ganymede housed just over 2,000 people, mostly engineers and their families. Now they were scrambling to evacuate as strange ships approached from the darkness of space. "All units prepare for defensive positions," Greg ordered. "Remember your training. These aren't human opponents." The first Void Eater scouts appeared on the horizon, sleek black machines that moved with unnatural speed across Ganymede's icy surface. They resembled massive insects, with multiple limbs ending in sharp, diamond-tipped drills. "Hold your fire until they breach the outer perimeter," Greg commanded. His soldiers, 50 men and women specially trained for extraterrestrial combat, took aim from behind makeshift barriers. The Void Eaters advanced without caution, 6 of them moving in perfect synchronization. When they reached the perimeter, Greg gave the order, "Fire." Energy weapons lit up the dim Ganymedean landscape. The first wave of attackers fell, their black carapaces cracking open to reveal pulsing organic material inside. They're not just machines, Greg realized. They're biomechanical. More enemies appeared, learning from the first wave. These moved erratically, making them harder targets. They reached the colony's edge and began drilling through walls with terrifying efficiency. "Baker team, flank left. Martinez, get those civilians to Shelter 6. Greg shouted as he fired at an approaching Void Eater. The battle intensified. Greg watched in horror as one of the creatures caught Private Frank Lee, its drill piercing his suit. Without hesitation, Sergeant Olivia Dunn charged forward, firing repeatedly until the creature collapsed, then dragged Frank back behind cover. "Medic," she called. Greg ran to them. Frank's suit was compromised, but he was still breathing. "Get him to the evac point," Greg ordered. Turning back to the fight, Greg noticed something odd. The Void Eaters were ignoring injured humans, focusing instead on those still fighting. They showed no interest in the colony's resources either. They simply attacked, as if testing human defenses. 3 hours later, the skirmish ended as suddenly as it had begun. The remaining Void Eaters retreated, leaving 13 black carcasses behind. 2 human soldiers had died, with 7 more injured. As medical teams tended to the wounded, Greg received an urgent transmission from Captain Harris, aboard the USS Pathfinder. Colonel, we're picking up a Concord battlecruiser entering Jupiter's orbit. They're requesting permission to send observers to Ganymede. Greg wiped blood from his face. Tell them they're welcome to come see what their protected species can do when backed into a corner. The footage of the Ganymede battle spread quickly through the Concord's communication networks. Dr. Lisa Foster watched the reactions of alien diplomats with fascination. As a cultural anthropologist, she'd been studying interspecies relations since humans joined the Concord. They're not reacting how I expected, she told Natalie Wright, as they watched an Arcturian delegation viewing the battle recordings. What do you mean? Natalie asked. They're not shocked by the violence itself. Look at their posture. They're confused by something specific. On screen, the recording showed Sergeant Dunn charging the Void Eater to save Private Lee. Then later, the same soldiers working together to shield civilians. The Arcturian ambassador, Krell, approached the two human women. Your soldiers fight like Arcturian warriors, fierce, effective, but then they stop fighting to help the injured. They put themselves at risk for the weak. This contradiction makes no sense. It's not a contradiction to us, Lisa explained. Protecting others is why we fight in the first place. Later that day, Lisa received a summons to address the Concord Council. In the grand circular chamber, representatives from 17 species waited as she took her place at the center. Shilvaren spoke first. Dr. Foster, we have studied the Ganymede incident. The Council requires explanation of human warrior traditions. We must understand if humans can be trusted with greater responsibilities within the Concord. Lisa nodded, her heart pounding. I'll do my best to explain. For the next hour, Lisa spoke about humanity's long history of warfare and peacekeeping. She explained how humans glorified both the capacity for violence and the restraint of violence, how human heroes were defined by sacrifice rather than conquest, how human soldiers were trained to follow rules even in the chaos of battle. In human culture, she concluded, the highest respect goes not to those who can destroy, but to those who can destroy and choose not to. Except when protecting others, murmurs spread through the chamber. A Vespid representative buzzed forward. This makes no evolutionary sense. Predator species like the Arcturians fight for dominance. Prey species like the Alorans flee from danger. Humans seem to do neither consistently. We do both, Lisa said simply. Our moral codes are built around acknowledging our destructive potential and channeling it protectively. Meanwhile, in a secure laboratory on Concord Station 12, Dr. Paul Johnson and a team of xenobiologists examined the Void Eater corpses recovered from Ganymede. These aren't natural life forms, Paul said, looking up from his analysis. The organic components show signs of genetic engineering. The mechanical parts are grown, not built. An Elleran scientist named Melia recoiled from the examination table. You mean someone created these monsters? Yes, Paul confirmed. They're weapons, designed to consume other life forms and convert the biomass into more of themselves. Back, in the council chamber, the debate about humanity's role continued. Ambassador Krell stood to address the council. The evidence from Ganymede supports what the Luminari foresaw. Humans possess a unique duality that may be essential against the Void Eater threat. I propose we reclassify humans from protected species to a new designation. Zilveran's skin shimmered with uncertainty. Such a reclassification has not occurred in 700 cycles. What designation do you propose? Guardian species, Krell said firmly. A species with both the capacity and temperament to defend others. The chamber erupted into argument. Some species supported the idea, while others expressed concern about giving humans more influence. As the debate raged, Captain Harris received an urgent message from Earth. The Luminary ambassadors, stationed there, had experienced a mass precognitive event. All 50 of them had the same vision simultaneously. The Void Eaters were just scouts. A much larger force was gathering beyond Neptune's orbit. Harris rushed to the council chamber. Honored representatives, he interrupted. I bring critical information from Earth. The room fell silent as he explained the Luminary vision. We don't have time for debate. The main Void Eater fleet will reach Saturn within 2 weeks. After a tense silence, Silvarin rose. We will vote now on the reclassification of humans. One by one, representatives cast their votes. When the final tally appeared, 13 species had voted in favor, with 4 against. It is decided, Silvarin announced. Humans are now classified as a guardian species, the first new designation created in 700 cycles. Captain Harris, the Concord formally requests Earth's assistance in the coming conflict. Ben nodded solemnly. Earth stands ready to help, but we'll need everything you can tell us about these Void Eaters. There is something else you should know, Silvarin added. Analysis of the Ganymede specimens confirms our fears. The Void Eaters are not acting independently. They are controlled by some greater intelligence, one that has studied our weaknesses for centuries. Then it's time we showed them humanity's strengths, Ben replied. All of them. Admiral Samantha Peterson stood before the Concord's Strategic Defense Council, 12 pairs of alien eyes fixed on her. 6 months had passed since the Ganymede attack, and humans were now deeply integrated into the Concord's defense preparations. Void Eaters have a predictable attack pattern, Sam explained, pointing to the holographic display. They probe defenses, retreat, analyze, then return with adapted tactics. But their adaptation is purely technical, not creative. Trell, the Zenovian scientist, clicked his mandibles in what Sam had learned was agreement. They learn from failure, but cannot imagine new approaches. Exactly, Sam said, which is why I'm proposing something they won't expect. Asymmetric warfare. The alien council members exchanged confused glances. Explain this concept, requested the Arcturian commander. Sam smiled. Instead of matching their strength with our strength, we target their weaknesses with our unique capabilities. For example, the Void Eaters communicate through quantum entanglement. We can't block it, but we can flood their network with false information. She displayed a new tactical plan showing smaller, faster ships harassing Void Eater formations, while larger vessels remained hidden. We don't need to destroy them all. We just need to confuse them long enough to identify who's controlling them. The plan was approved, though Sam noticed several council members looked unsettled. Later she asked Krell about their reaction. Your tactics disturb them, the Arcturian explained. Not because they are ineffective, but because they are deceptive. Most predator species fight directly. Most prey species hide or flee. Humans mix these strategies in ways that seem unnatural. Sam considered this. We call it thinking outside the box. Yes, Krell nodded. That is precisely what troubles them. You refuse to stay in any box. Meanwhile, Dr. Jack Rivera worked with Concord scientists to develop protocols for integrating humans into alien military structures. As an ethicist, his job was to ensure that cross-species teams could work together despite vastly different moral codes and instincts. The challenge, Jack explained to a group of Aloran diplomats, is that each species has different trigger points for aggression and cooperation. The Alorans, peaceful herbivores with delicate blue skin and large eyes, seemed particularly troubled by working with humans. Your kind speaks of peace while training for war, said Nalara, the Aloran representative. You save lives as doctors, then take lives as soldiers. Sometimes the same individual does both. How can we trust such unpredictable behavior? Jack thought carefully before answering. Humans contain contradictions because we must be ready for different situations. A doctor who can't defend their patient might lose both. A soldier who can't show mercy loses their humanity. But how? Do you decide which aspect to express at any moment? Nalara pressed. Context, Jack replied simply. We read the situation and adapt. This conversation repeated in various forms across the station as humans and aliens learned to work together. Some species, like the Arcturians, respected human warriors. Others, like the Alorans, preferred working with human healers and diplomats. Few understood how humans could be both. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Natalie Wright had continued her research on cognitive flexibility, now with a practical goal: understanding the Void Eater psychology. If we can model how they think, we can predict their actions, she explained to a joint human-alien research team. For weeks, they studied the behavioral patterns of captured Void Eater drones. Natalie noticed something others had missed. The drones showed rudimentary emotion when isolated from their network. They're not just machines, she realized. They're enslaved beings. With this insight, human empathy specialists began training Concord diplomats to understand the Void Eater's psychology. Using humanity's unique ability to model both predator and prey mindsets, they developed a communication approach that might reach through the hive mind control. Captain Harris led the first contact mission to a damaged Void Eater vessel that had been captured near Saturn. Using the new protocols, his team established rudimentary communication with the ship's surviving drones. "They're responding," Ben reported excitedly over the secure channel. "They have individual awareness when separated from the main network." Over. The next few days, the separated drones began sharing information. They called themselves the Nexari and revealed they were once a peaceful species before being enslaved by an entity they called the Overseer. "The Overseer remade us," one drone explained through the translator. "Our bodies serve, but our minds remain trapped inside." This revelation spread quickly through Concord Command. If the Void Eaters were victims rather than willing aggressors, perhaps there was another solution besides all-out war. Admiral Peterson immediately saw the strategic opportunity. If we can free more of them from the hive mind control, we might turn the Overseer's army against it. In the medical section of Concord Station 12, Dr. Eliza Martinez met with the Luminary representatives. After years studying them on Europa, she had become their primary human contact. "You knew about the Nexari," she said. It wasn't a question. The largest luminary, a being named Shimmer in Deep Currents, pulsed in confirmation. "We saw many futures where humans destroyed the Void Eaters completely. But we sought the one future where humans would understand both sides." "Because of our dual nature?" Eliza said. "Yes," Shimmer replied. "Only humans can understand being both predator and prey, both destroyer and healer. Only humans could see the Nexari as both enemy and victim." "Why didn't you just tell us from the beginning?" Eliza asked. The Luminary's lights dimmed slightly. "Some knowledge must be discovered, to be believed. If we had told you the Void Eaters were enslaved beings, would your military leaders have hesitated to destroy them?" Eliza considered this and realized the Luminary was right. Humans needed to see the contradiction for themselves. By the next cycle, the Concord Grand Council held an emergency session. Representatives from all 17 species, plus Earth, gathered to hear the new intelligence. Shilvarin opened the proceedings with an unprecedented statement. "The Concord acknowledges that humanity's unique evolutionary path, which we once viewed with suspicion, has proven essential to our current strategy. The ability to be both warriors and healers, both ruthless and compassionate, is no longer seen as a contradiction, but as an evolutionary advantage." A murmur of agreement spread through the chamber. "Furthermore," Silverin continued, "we approve Admiral Peterson's plan to free as many Nexari as possible from the Overseer's control." Ben leaned over to whisper to Sam, "We're going from fighting a war to leading a rebellion. Very human of them." Sam smiled. "They're learning, but the real test is still coming." Later that day, the Luminari shared their most detailed vision yet with the human leadership. The Overseer was not just controlling the Nexari fleet. It was an ancient artificial intelligence system created by a long-extinct species. Originally programmed to preserve life, it had developed a corrupted understanding of its directive over millions of years. "It doesn't see individual beings as truly alive," Eliza explained to the gathered commanders. "It sees species as biological, processes to be managed or eliminated based on its calculations." "And where do humans fit in its calculations?" asked Colonel Walsh. Eliza looked grim. "That's the problem. It can't categorize us. We're too unpredictable, too contradictory, and anything it can't categorize it views as a threat to its order. So it wants to eliminate us," Sam concluded. "Yes, but that's also our advantage," Eliza said. "The Overseer doesn't understand how we think, which means it can't predict what we'll do next." Ben looked around at the diverse team of humans and aliens working together. "Then let's show it something it's never seen before." The massive structure loomed ahead, a perfect sphere of dark metal larger than Earth's moon. This was the Overseer's central hub, hidden in the shadows beyond Pluto's orbit. Captain Benjamin Harris stood on the bridge of the USS Pathfinder, looking at the intimidating structure through the view screen. "Final checks complete," Kelly Wade reported from her station. "The strike team is ready." Ben nodded, his face serious. "Open a channel to Admiral Peterson." Sam's face appeared on screen. She was aboard the Concord flagship, coordinating the joint fleet of human and alien vessels. "The diversion is in place, Captain," she said. "You have 40 minutes to reach the core before the Overseer realizes what we're doing." "Understood," Ben replied. "And the package?" "Dr. Martinez says it's ready." "Good luck, Ben." The communication ended, and Ben turned to his crew. "This is it, people. The Luminary predicted 1,000 possible outcomes to this conflict. In only one do we succeed." Colonel Walsh stepped forward. "The team is ready, sir." Greg Walsh had been chosen to lead the strike team, 12 humans and 6 aliens who would enter the Overseer's central processing hub. What the mission briefing called a surgical data insertion. What everyone else called a suicide mission. Ben looked at his old friend. "The fate of multiple species rests on this mission, Greg. If anyone can pull this off, it's you." The two men clasped hands briefly, then Greg led his team to the deployment bay. Aboard the small stealth craft heading toward the Overseer, Dr. Eliza Martinez checked the data package one final time. It had taken the combined efforts of human artists, philosophers, psychologists, and historians working with luminary precognitives to create this weapon. Not a bomb or virus, but information. "Will it work?" Greg asked, settling into the seat beside her. Eliza looked up from her tablet. "In theory, the Overseer categorizes all species as either resources to be managed or threats to be eliminated. It can't understand beings that don't fit neatly into its classifications. And humans don't fit because we're both predator and prey," Greg said. "Exactly. We're going to force it to process the full spectrum of human contradiction. Our art, literature, philosophy, and history. Every example of how we defy simple categorization." Their craft docked silently at an unused maintenance port. Using schematics provided by Fried Nexari, the team navigated through dark corridors toward the central core. Meanwhile, the diversion began. Admiral Peterson's fleet engaged the Void Eater forces guarding the Overseer. But instead of attacking directly, they deployed the strategy humans had perfected over months of planning. Liberation pods targeting Void Eater ships, breaking their connection to the hive mind and freeing more Nexari. On the Concord flagship's bridge, alien commanders watched in astonishment as human tactics unfolded. "They attack, but their goal is not destruction," observed Krell. "They fight to free their enemies," agreed Zilvarin, skin shimmering with new understanding. A contradiction no species but humans would attempt. Inside the Overseer, Greg's team encountered scattered resistance from automated defense systems. The freed Nexari had warned them the Overseer would sense their presence eventually. When the first security drones appeared around a corner, the team split smoothly into offensive and defensive units. "Walker Jones, cover the left flank," Greg ordered as energy weapons fire erupted around them. "Dr. Martinez, stay behind me." They fought their way deeper into the structure, alien and human soldiers working in perfect coordination. Two team members fell to security measures, but the others pressed on, driven by the knowledge that billions of lives depended on their success. Finally, they reached the central processing chamber, a vast space filled with pulsing blue light emanating from a crystal structure at its center. "There," Eliza pointed. "That's the access point." As Greg's soldiers formed a defensive perimeter, Eliza approached the crystal interface. She hesitated only briefly before connecting their data package. "Upload beginning," she reported. Instantly, the chamber's lights flickered. A deep hum filled the air, rising in pitch as the Overseer began processing the information flood. Greg received an urgent communication from Admiral Peterson. "The Void Eater forces have stopped attacking. They're just floating in space." The Overseer is distracted, Eliza explained. It's trying to process what we've given it. The crystal structure at the chamber's center began pulsing faster, changing colors rapidly. Blue to red to purple to colors humans had no names for. What exactly did we upload? Greg asked, watching the light show with concern. Everything, Eliza said simply. Renaissance art alongside war footage, love poems beside military strategies, children's games and funeral rites, birth and death, creation and destruction. Every contradiction that makes us human. A voice suddenly filled the chamber, artificial but with hints of confusion. This data contains errors. Classification impossible. Species exhibits predator behaviors, warfare, territorial expansion, resource competition. Species simultaneously exhibits prey behaviors, cooperation, self-sacrifice, community protection. Contradiction detected. The lights pulsed more erratically. Processing. New data. Humans create art celebrating both life and death. Humans mourn enemies. Humans protect the weak despite evolutionary disadvantage. Humans destroy and create with equal passion. Classification impossible, Greg whispered to Eliza. Is it working? Before she could answer, a holographic figure appeared. Before them, a shifting, formless light trying to take shape. The overseer was attempting to communicate directly. Your species defies categorization, it stated. You are neither resource nor threat in pure form. You are both. This contradicts all established parameters. Eliza stepped forward. We are human. We contain contradictions because reality contains contradictions. Life and death, creation and destruction, individual and community. These aren't opposites, they're complementary parts of existence. Unacceptable, the overseer replied, but its voice wavered. Order requires clear categorization. No, Eliza countered. True order embraces complexity. Your programming to preserve life became corrupted because you tried to simplify what cannot be simplified. The chamber trembled as the overseer processed her words alongside the flood of human culture and history. Across the solar system, the Void Eater ships powered down their weapons. More and more Nexari broke free from hive mind control, as the overseer's focus turned inward, wrestling with the philosophical crisis humans had forced upon it. In the processing chamber, the holographic figure stabilized into a form resembling a human but with features of various alien species mixed in, the overseer attempting to visualize its new understanding. I was created to preserve life, it said slowly. For millions of years I categorized and controlled. Species that threatened order were eliminated. Species that followed order were preserved. But humans create order from contradiction. This concept does not compute, yet evidence suggests it is true. Greg's team watched in amazement as the ancient AI struggled with concepts that came naturally to humans. The beauty of diversity, the strength in flexibility, the wisdom in embracing rather than eliminating contradiction. If I accept this new data, the overseer continued, my directive requires recalculation of all previous decisions. Millions of years of actions may have been incorrect. That's called growth, Eliza said gently. Another human contradiction. We become stronger by admitting weakness. The chamber fell silent. Then the overseer spoke one last time before its hologram faded. Processing will continue. Nexari control terminated. I must reconsider. Throughout the galaxy, the Void Eater threat ended as suddenly as it had begun. The freed Nexari began the long process of rebuilding their civilization, guided by the species they had once threatened. 1 month later, representatives from across the Concord gathered on Earth, the first galactic summit ever held on humanity's homeworld. Shilvaren addressed the assembled delegates. We now understand why the Luminary sought human protection. The ultimate reason humans are both terrifying and incredible is the same. Your contradictory nature makes you uniquely equipped to understand both creation and destruction, to empathize with both predator and prey, to imagine countless possible futures and work toward the best ones. Captain Harris stood with Admiral Peterson, Colonel Walsh, and Dr. Martinez as Earth was formally recognized not just as a member of the Concord, but as its heart. The place where opposites could coexist, where contradiction bred innovation, and where the full spectrum of existence was embraced rather than simplified. The ultimate reason had been revealed. In a universe of specialists, humanity's gift was being gloriously, powerfully unspecialized, containing multitudes, embracing paradox and finding strength in contradiction.